Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth intake of the Company of Good Fellows. I hope you're going to find the proceedings extremely useful and helpful to you as you think about your businesses, your careers, and frankly, your future as corporate citizens. In my remarks today, I'm going to focus on two broad areas. The first of these is a little bit theoretical, but it is worth pondering on, which is the idea of what is the purpose of a company? What is the right thing for a company to be doing? In the second part of my comments, I will focus a little bit more on DBS, the company that I represent, and give you a sense for how I try to bring our thinking on these issues to life and give them real form in the context of DBS. So without further ado, let me dive deep into the theory of the case. Now, I think the best way to understand the issues involved is to frame it in what is increasingly being called the argument between shareholder capitalism and stakeholder capitalism. The real proponent of the shareholder capitalism school was Milton Friedman. And in a famous essay in 1970, he propounded what became known as the Friedman Doctrine, or even the shareholder primacy doctrine. Friedman's argument was not callous. He's a very thoughtful and thinking man. But his argument was very simply predicated on one fundamental belief, that the reason a company gets created by owners, by shareholders, is to generate a return and a profit for the shareholder. And therefore he argued that the only social purpose a company must have is to give a return to the people who formed the company and provided capital. He didn't think that companies should be unlawful. He said when this is the primary agenda of a company, he went on to add, they should do whatever is legally allowed to do, not that you can do illegal things. He also was not a bad person, because he also said that the shareholder can use the money that you give him, the returns, him or her, the returns, the dividend, to do whatever they want. And if they believe they want to invest in social causes, they will do that. But it should not be the company's role to do that. And his principal concern was the minute you leave to company managements and to company agents the possibility of taking money and spending it on community causes, social causes, then you're actually taking somebody else's money and spending it. And he said that is not right. And therefore there's a reasonable rationale to why he said that the role of a company is strictly to make profits for the shareholder. The stakeholder school would argue that this is flawed for several reasons. And frankly, in recent times, more and more people and companies are beginning to get engaged with the stakeholder view of capitalism and the role of companies. As you know, in the last year or two, the Business Leaders Roundtable in the US, some of the 100 biggest leaders, came out and said they think the company's role is more than just making profits. And there, to my mind, three important ways to think about this and why there's a case to be made on the opposite side of the argument. The first case to my mind is this. What is a company and why does the company get formed? A joint stock company or companies in the nature that we know went back 400-500 years to try and create an entity which has legal form and legal substance. We're trying to create a legal person. This legal person is created to create a distinction between the shareholders and the liabilities of the people, the shareholders, and the responsibilities and liabilities of this new legal form, the company. But because you say you're creating a new legal form and you're creating a new legal person, it just seems to me that this new legal person should also have its own rights and responsibilities. You cannot argue that this legal person only serves the interests of the individual. The legal person has been given a place and a role in society. In that case, they must have an obligation and responsibility to society. At the end of the day, companies exist because of civil permission. You get a license from the government, but more importantly, you get a license from civil society. If civil society did not believe that you had a value to add, if civil society did not believe that you had a role to perform, civil society would not give you that license. In earning that license from civil society, you take on an onus of responsibility. And that onus of responsibility is you must do something which is useful and valuable to society. So to me, that's the first argument, which says you cannot think of the company as an independent entity only being an agent for the shareholder. The company has a life of its own. and has a responsibility of its own. The second agenda, the reason I think the Milton Friedman is a little flawed is this. Let's assume that the company and the company's employees are only the agents of the shareholder. Does that mean as an agent of the shareholder, I do not have the need and the necessity to employ my own mind, to employ my own judgment? I would argue not. And I would say that even if you as an individual are working for somebody else, you cannot blindly follow whatever that somebody else wants. You've been given a brain, and you've been given a heart, and you've been given a soul. It is in your interest and expectation that you exercise the brain, the heart, and the soul. I know the parallel is a little extreme, but oftentimes people used to question, why would the soldiers in Nazi Germany, Italy not say what Hitler is doing is not right? For them to say, because I work for the German army, whatever I'm told to do is the right thing, was that the right outcome? I would argue not. And therefore, to me, the second reason is this. It doesn't matter whether you have an independent life or not. Even as an agent, you owe it to yourself as an entity or as an individual to exercise your own judgment. The third reason, at its heart, I really don't think there's that much of a conflict between stakeholder value and shareholder value. It is only a conflict of time. What happens is that when you think of shareholder value as returning profits and returning returns to the shareholder, and you shrink the time frame and say, I want to make sure this is my primary agenda every quarter, every 6 months, every year, that's when you start creating conflict. But if you extend the time zone and say, my job is to provide a return to the shareholder over a period of time, over 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, or even 50 years, then the conflict tends to disappear. Because the only way you can provide a good sustainable return to the owner of capital, to the shareholder over an extended period of time is you must be around for an extended period of time. And this goes back to my principal argument. The only way you will be around for some period of time is if society lets you be. Which means that if you really think that your primary objective is to reward the shareholder, then even in that very narrow interest, it is in your interest and your benefit to do the right things for society, to be providing the right value for community, so society and community let you earn a return which is a long-term return, not just a short-term return. I do believe that while there is merit in managements being held accountable for performance, I also believe it is important to recognize that companies have life, that individuals and companies have agency that they must use, and in the long term, if companies are doing the right things for society and for community, they will get better outcomes for the shareholder in any event. Let me switch quickly to the second part of my comments, which is a few comments on DBS and how we think about the agenda. Now, as you know, at DBS, we were privileged because we were created in the 1960s with a very clear agenda. And that agenda was a purpose-driven agenda. That agenda was, how do we help in the development of Singapore? If you look at the DBS archives in the first decade, it is quite stark that by and large there is very little discussion of profit and profitability. Most of the rubric for decision making was, is this good for Singapore? Now, when you have a DNA of that sort deeply rooted, is this good for the country? Then that helps make life a lot easier. Because in everything that you do, you first have this prism that you go through, is this good for the country? We got further lucky. In the 1998 or 99, we were merged with the postal savings at POSB. Now, POSB had been around for over 100 years, and POSB had a very simple tagline, neighbors first, bankers second. POSB was a bank for the masses. It was a bank for the heartland. It was a bank created to develop the savings habit for individuals. Again, that's been really important in helping crystallize the DNA and thinking at DBS, that we are here to be able to do real things for real people, to be able to serve a purpose. Some years ago, I got our team together to really think about what should the soul of DBS be, what should our vision be, how do we make sure that we are relevant to community and society. We spent a lot of time thinking about, should we have a cool vision like connecting the world? And we finally came back to a very simple realization. The work that we do every day is really meaningful. We help people save money. We help people be able to plan for their retirement. We help people buy a house. We help people buy a car. We help small companies become big companies. These are all fantastic things to do. So really there is no question mark that the purpose of a bank and the purpose of our business is actually very good. As long as we are very focused on achieving the right outcomes, we will do right things. And actually, just as an aside, we therefore didn't come up with a very cool, different kind of vision statement. Our vision statement is quite simple. Our mission is, to make banking joyful. Our point was banking is a good thing. Banking brings value. We just have to focus on making banking a joy for everybody. It should be joyful for community. It should be joyful for the system. It should be joyful for our employees, and it should be joyful for our customers. And if you can do that, focus very hard on making banking joyful, we will achieve a true purpose. That was the large thinking that has guided what we have tried to do in the last few years. Now, this is important. A lot of companies think that the idea of doing good and being a company for good is having a good CSR practice on the side, of giving some donations or doing some philanthropy. I don't object to that. Of course, you should do that. But in reality, if you need to be a company for good, you have to take the fundamentals of purpose and build it into the fabric of the business. The business you do, the day-to-day actions you perform, those must reflect it. It cannot be something done independently and on the side. So in DBS, we did a very simple thing. We architected a program. We call it an overall program for sustainability, if you will. And it's anchored around 3 prisms. The prism number 1 was this, that we said we can make a big difference to people, community, and societies and customers based on our banking practice. So how do we give loans? Who do we give loans to? How do we reach out to the bottom of the pyramid? How do we do financial inclusion? How do we make sure people trust us? How do we make sure that our disclosures are clean and fair? How do we deal with people fairly? That's a large part of this. We call it responsible banking practices. The second thing we can do is really the day-to-day nature of our business. So what is our hiring policy? Are we gender neutral? Do we help our supply chain be sustainable? Do we make sure we don't use too much carbon in this thing? That's the second thing, our own practices. And finally, a third is, how do you get out to the broader community and make a difference? In our case, we've chosen to focus on social enterprise and social entrepreneurship, partly because we think that this idea of having a dual bottom line, doing good while doing well, is something that shouldn't be not just be restricted to DBS. It is something that we should advocate and create a large community of people who think like us. And so social enterprise is our platform to get more and more people to understand this dual bottom line question. I'm a big believer, as you can see from the first part of my comments, that companies do have a dual role. We have a role and an obligation to service the shareholder for performance. That role is important because if we don't do that, we will not survive. You will not be able to get capital. But equally, we have another role, and that role is a role to society. And therefore, this dual bottom line, or some people would argue a multi-bottom line, is really critical. To make sure you think of the multi-bottom line, you have to respect and accept that sometimes you will make trade-offs which veer more towards one side than the other. In our case, there's a very simple trade-off which I reflect oftentimes. We deal with 4.5 million people in Singapore. We bank everybody in this island. Few people recognize that more than half of that, 2.5, 3 million people in the heartlands, the migrant labor I spoke about, don't make money for us. It's a loss-making business. If we were only focused on the profitability agenda, if we were only focused on returning money to the shareholder, we would stop banking those people. We would reduce our costs, we would make more money, and we would improve our return on equity. But we don't do that. And the reason we don't do that is because we recognize that these are trade-offs which are the right trade-offs to make. We are the people's bank. If we don't bank these people, who will? And therefore, even recognizing that we are leaving money on the table, even recognizing that there is a P&L compromise, we still do that because we still bank these people because we think it is the right thing to do. That is the message I want to leave each one of you with. Whether you are a small and medium enterprise, whether you are an employee in a large corporation, whether you're an individual in the individual capacity, finally it will boil down to a question of conscience. Are you prepared to make the trade-offs that need to be made at the right time? Life is about balance. It is neither A nor B. It is being able to get the right position in between A and B. I believe it can be done. I believe it is possible to do well while doing good. And I think finally it boils down to each one of you. if you, through your actions, you, through your intent, you, through your leadership, can make the difference in people thinking of us as the corporate sector and companies as being either heroes or being villains. Choose to be a hero. And I hope you have an enjoyable session ahead.